This winter, more than ever, with COVID-19 still circulating, we need help to reduce all avoidable risks. You can help protect the NHS, social care and loved ones by getting the flu vaccine. You may be eligible for the free vaccine at your GP or local pharmacy if you are over 65, pregnant or have a long-term condition. Find out if you are eligible at nhs.uk/staywell. Children up to Year 7 can get the free nasal spray at school or through their GP if they are below school age. If you are not eligible for the free vaccine, you can pay for it at your local pharmacy. The flu vaccination does not give you flu. It reduces the risk of catching flu, as well as spreading it to others. If you had the vaccination in the past, that will not protect you as the flu strain changes every year, so you need to have a new one this year. It is also important to wash your hands often with warm water and soap. Use tissues when you cough or sneeze, and bin used tissues as quickly as possible. Thank you for helping to protect yourself and loved ones this winter.
I can really recommend being a foster carer for Notts County Council. There's always someone walking the journey alongside you, whether that's other foster carers or social workers. It really helps to provide stability and consistency for children who really need it, and that's really rewarding as a foster carer.
Roger and I have been fostering for 35 years. We do deal with challenges, but to say we've been doing it for 35 years to me proves that it's not impossible. We learn an awful lot from these young people, and even now we're still learning.
As a foster family, we care, we want to make a difference, and we get so much fulfilment from fostering. The satisfaction of making a difference is something that money can't buy. Just seeing the smiles on the children's faces and helping them reach their potential is wonderful.
We work as family workers within the fostering service for Nottinghamshire County Council.
I really enjoy my work. I really enjoy meeting lots of different foster carers.
You know, we get to know the families, we get to know the kids, and we care, basically. It's important as it is to them that the kids are getting the support that they need.
A lot of people said to me they would like to be a foster carer, but there's something stopping them. I had that as well. And we decided just to jump in and do it and see what happened. And for us, it's been the best decision we've ever made.
It's been a fantastic decision, it really has, yes.
Once people start to become a foster carer and take that leap to do it, they'll understand how much it gives back, not just to the child, but how much it empowers you as well.
I'm Leon, I'm a care leaver, and I've been in care since I was 8. I've been with the same parents since, and they're amazing. Like, they are my foster parents, but I do class them as my parents, my mum and dad. All a child wants really from a family is to be supported, loved and cared for, and know they're there because they're wanted. From personal experience, I know the difference it's made for my life.
We always say that we foster as a whole family. It's not just us who are the carers, our children are involved in that. And even now, people express concern about the effect on our birth children of foster caring. I think we need to kind of get past that and dispel that myth, because actually the overall effect on our children, I think, is positive. They're learning new skills, they're gaining empathy, they're interacting with children from different backgrounds. For a long time, we didn't make use of support care, and we wanted our child to settle into our placement and not feel pushed out. But it's actually been really helpful for us to start to have support care.
We've known Zoe for a number of years, and it's meant that we got to know her foster child. So for her, it's been like coming for a sleepover rather than a feeling she's coming to another family. I got into fostering for Notts County Council, and it was something that I've always wanted to do, but working full time.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now live streaming. Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor John Cotty. I'm Chairman of Communities in Place. I'd like to welcome you all to the virtual meeting of the committee, which is being held remotely. For the benefit of any viewers of the live stream, I'll now ask the Clerk of the committee, Noel McMenamin, to list the other members and officers present today. Thank you, Noel.
Thank you, Chair. Just bear with me one moment. Right. In addition to the Chair, the other members present today are Councillors Handley, Pauline Allen, Richard Butler, Jim Creamer, Glyn Guilfoyle, Kevin Greaves, Tom Hollis, Vaughan Hopewell, Bruce Lawton and John Ogle. Councillor Gordon Wheeler is also present today. As well as myself, we also have the following officers present today. From the Police Department, we have Adrian Smith and Service Directors Derek Higton and Matthew Neal. Group Managers Rob Fisher, Sally Gill, Gary Wood and Mark Walker. Team Managers Sue Jakes, Jan Vitko and Martin Green. And via East Midlands is represented today by Doug Coots. Thank you, Chair.
Chairman, I'd just like to say before the meeting starts that my virtual hand has disappeared for some reason.
We've got looker outs on the screen, so if you just put your hand up, John, we'll get hold of you if you need to say something. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 1, which is the minutes of the last meeting on the 5th of November. Anybody wish to say anything? Any objections? Just some nodding heads if possible. Yeah. Okay. We can accept those then. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Noel again. Have we had any apologies for absence, please, Noel?
Yes, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Phil Rostons and Councillor Richard Butler is substituting today.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Do any members present have a disclosable pecuniary interest to declare? And do members present have any private interests, pecuniary or non-pecuniary, to declare? Any declarations? I can't see anyone. Councillor Hollis, have you got your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It's not a declaration, just to say that I'm having some problems with my technology today. The council's still not replaced my laptop, so I can't unfortunately turn on my camera, but I am present in the meeting and then able to vote via, obviously, voice, if that's possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we move on then to item 4, which is Communities in Place Performance and Finance Report for Q2. Can I ask, no, it's not Councillor. Can I ask Derek Higton, please, to present the paper, please? Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is the latest in the ongoing and regular series of reports that we bring to committee to outline both our performance against our performance objectives and more latterly to outline where we are in terms of financial performance and progress against our kind of budget objectives as well. The report sets out a range of performance and finance related issues around particularly around COVID related activity as well, and you'll see that COVID has impacted upon both performance and obviously our financial position in the current year as well. There's a lot of detail in both the report and the two appendices as well, and either myself or colleagues, I'm more than happy to pick up on any questions or comments that members may have.
Thank you very much, Derek. The recommendation on page 21 of the pack is to consider the contents of the report and potential for loss of future income and request an update to provide to the communities and place when the outcome of the consultation is known. So I've got the wrong one. My apologies. Thank you for stopping me. Yeah, we'll try again. My apologies for that. The committee considers whether there are any actions it requires in relation to the performance information on the council services for communities in place for the period of 1st of July to the 30th of September 2020. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second that, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions or comments? Councillor Hollis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope members can hear me okay. My first question relates to the active travel plan on high pavement in Sutton in Ashfield. What consultation does this council undertake with the residents who live in the area, which is a known traffic hotspot? I welcome the fact, as a result of a campaign led by the Ashfield Independents, the ridiculous plan to act 3 parking bays in Kirkby and 1 in Sutton was dropped. Why didn't the county council consult with either the district council or traders properly before announcing these plans? And finally, Mr. Chairman, I refer to the highways programme. Dozens of the highways projects have had to be revisited through remedial works to be carried out. How much do you think it will cost this authority for this substandard workmanship, which has ultimately been carried out in our name? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll go to Gary Wood on that in a few minutes. If there's anybody else with any questions at all, please. Jim Creamer, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a question on item 12 on the waste services. It's pleasing to see that we've actually gone beyond our reduced target, and it's understandable with COVID, etc., and all the problems we've had. But just a question: when you go to the yellow papers on page 15 of the yellow papers, the waste service, the household was sent to reuse recycling compost, etc. As the council has now actually signed to go zero carbon, 30% carbon free, etc., when we get the chance, could we have a little bit more detail? It does actually say that 90% has actually been diverted from landfill, but how much has been actually used in Sheffield and in Eastcroft in the incinerators? So as we've got targets that we're going to try and meet, it would be useful information, because obviously anything that's travelling either to landfill or to incinerator is an environmental impact in itself. So no problems with the figures. I believe they're accurate. It's just that for future, can we have it just broken down just a little bit more into what's actually going to landfill and what's actually going to incinerator? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I'll go to Councillor Greaves. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Paragraph 7 is certainly a good news story for us, with no children being killed on the roads. That's always a good news story. Just further down from that, can you tell us how far we are from completion of the LED lighting in Nottinghamshire? Obviously, it was a good thing that in our administration started, and I just wondered, I'd like to know how far we are from completion on that. And just one more thing on the financial performance, paragraph 7. We've got an underspend on that, but the 7.8 million, could you just for clarity tell us where that has come from, and what's going to happen to the underspend of 540,000? Likewise, on the paragraph 30 for the transport, where's that money going to go? Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've got a few questions there. I can see Glyn, but I'm just going to go back to some of the officers on the questions, because there's 1 or 2 different officers. On the tranche 2, Gary, would you like to come back on that, please, from Councillor Hollis, if that's the opportunity, and then I'm going to come to Derek on the waste, and he may be able to answer on the lights. I don't know, but we'll see where we go. So Gary, if you're available, please.
Thanks, Councillor Cotty, and thanks, Councillor Hollis, for your questions. In terms of the active travel fund, the second phase, we're just starting the consultation, so we're just making contact with the relevant county councillors to get their views on those proposals. So those conversations are just starting, and then we're going to do a wide-ranging consultation with the public on those. In terms of the active travel tranche 1, obviously, as you know, we did a consultation and we have listened to the community views, and there are certain schemes that we are progressing with and others that are not going forward. And I think your last question was around some failures that have occurred with highway works. So where those failures are down to third-party contractors, which in the main is what has occurred on a few locations, as you indicated, those costs will be picked up by those third-party contractors, and there'll be no cost to the county council.
Thank you, Gary. Derek, do you want to come in on the waste? And I don't know whether you can answer the lights or need. I'll leave that with you if you can. Thank you.
I can pick up the LED question if you wish, Derek.
I was going to point it in your direction, Gary, so that would be helpful. You might want to, it may be best for you to pick up where we are in terms of the public transport and highways budget position as well.
Okay, I'll do that now, sorry. Yes, so in terms of the LED work, I can give you a more detailed note, Councillor Greaves, but I know that we've just been successful in obtaining more Salix funding for additional works in Gedling and Rushcliffe, and then we'll be left with there'll still be some lighting across the county that isn't LED, but it becomes more expensive then for us to convert that. But I would say it has been a very successful programme. We've just actually won an award for it from APSI, and there'll be more news about that at full council, I think. But it's saved us over £1 million from that programme. And then the question, I think, was about any surplus budget that is there. I guess that will be looked at in the round in terms of place and whether there are overspends in other areas, and see whether that will offset any of those overspends, and that will come out in the next period's forecast.
And just to then pick up Councillor Cotty on your question, Councillor Creamer, thank you for that. I don't have the details of what percentage we send over to Eastcroft or up to Sheffield for incineration. What we'll do is we'll include that number in the next performance report so that you can see it separated out, if that's helpful.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, it's just a general comment in relation to the report, but predominantly around staffing issues and the redeployment of staff for other work, COVID related, and just to say a big thank you to them for what they're doing. Clearly, you know, people have had to learn new skills and have new roles, and they've done it very, very well. And I think we ought to place on record our thanks to those staff. I'm sure the public are happy that the civil parking enforcement team was redeployed to doing something else as well during this period. But clearly there's a lot in there, and there's also, you know, from all of the service areas, you know, highways, trading standards, and also, you know, people on emergency planning. I know here everybody has sort of put together to work to deliver a safe environment for people locally, and thanks for that.
Thank you very much, Glenn, and I'm sure that the committee is happy for Derek to take that away and pass on to our staff. Thank you. Thank you. Do I have any more speakers at all?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it's possible just to come back briefly.
Yep, I can see your hand now, Tom. It wasn't on my screen, but yes.
Sorry, no worries. I do apologise. It's probably my camera being off, but no, just to add my support behind what Councillor Guilfoyle's just said there. I couldn't agree with him more. But also just to thank Gary for his comprehensive answer to my questions there, and particularly I welcome the fact that we are challenging our contractors and third parties to actually pick up the cost of their mistakes. So it's really good that we're holding them to account. And I'd really only ask is if there is a way of particularly checking and balancing the services, for example, like Severn Trent Water and various other parties that dig up the roads as part of this, that we actually check a lot more of their works as well, because ultimately if we don't, we're going to end up picking up the pieces later down the line. So it's really good to hear that we are going back and checking on people as well. But I know it's not slightly relevant to this item, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's okay, Councillor Hollis. We actually run a permit scheme now, so we do have more inspectors out there. Yeah. But I'm just going to go to Gary Wood to see if he wants to add anything to what I've just said there. But Gary, could you come back and...
Thanks, Councillor Cossey. Yeah, just to make committee aware that we're bringing a report to January's committee on the progress with the permit scheme, so we can cover that in more detail at a future committee.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, I've no more speakers on my screen, and unless somebody shouts to me, I'm presuming that's okay. So we'll go to the vote then, please. Can any members voting against the recommendation please indicate now? I can't see anybody. Are we okay, Noel, on that? Nobody? Are there any abstentions? Okay, thank you then, members. That means it's approved unanimously. Thank you. So we move on to item 5, which is the Law Commission Weddings Consultation. And I'm going to ask Rob Fisher to present the report, please. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, if I may just highlight a few key points from the report. The purpose of the report is to advise the committee of the Law Commission's current consultation on proposals to modernise marriage law and the implications that this has for local authority registration services. Now, members will appreciate that as well as being a family celebration, a wedding also marks the point when a couple take on significant legal obligations to one another. And the main focus of the Law Commission's consultation is on the rules governing the formalities that a couple need to comply with in order to be legally married. And these include where they can marry, who can conduct the marriage, and how marriages should be registered. The Law Commission's consultation document asks questions and makes provisional proposals for reform. And the scheme that the Law Commission's provisionally proposed is based on the regulation of ceremony officiants, rather than the current arrangements based around the building in which the wedding takes place. The proposals do have implications for the current role of local authorities in our approval of premises for civil marriage, and also for our registrars, if there are new groups of officiants being able to conduct civil marriage ceremonies. At the same time, the changes would bring opportunities for local businesses to offer new marriage services, and that will be potentially beneficial to the local economy. In response to the national consultation, registration service professional bodies will raise concerns detailed in the report around, for example, crime and disorder, information governance, and safeguarding. Responses to the consultation can be made until the 4th of January, and when the consultation is complete, the Law Commission will analyse the responses and develop recommendations for the government. And it is expected that legislative changes will follow in due course. And the recommendation from the report is to note the contents, including the potential loss of future income for the registration service, and to request an update to the committee when the outcome of the consultation is known. I should be pleased to take any questions members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you for putting the recommendation forward. It saves me making a mistake again, but yeah, the recommendation is on page 21, so I'll propose that. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that, Jim.
Thank you very much. So it's open to debate. I've got Councillor Guilfoyle and then Councillor Hollis.
Thank you, Chairman. What mistake was that, Chairman, relating to the report? Was that?
I read the wrong recommendation out on the first one.
Nothing to do with your marriage. I was.
No. Sorry for that.
Chairman, this is in reality is a serious report because it's about standards. Our team, registration team, ensure that places that are where ceremonies take place are at a certain standard and meet the requirements, which is very important to couples, etc., who are going to get married. The place is appropriate and can fulfil a specific service that they provide. It's also about the crime and disorder issues, which is pointed out in the report. Rob knows and will be able to tell you probably how many people do try either A, to commit bigamy or sham marriages or forced marriages. And we have had cases of those within Nottinghamshire that have been picked up by our officers. And the concern I have is that if they've not got the systems that we have to be able to check that, and the competent officers that we have to check that could cause very serious problems for individuals. And again, coming back to the records, which are very important, they're important for they're important for all sorts of things, for the census, for ensuring, again, on crime disorder, ensuring that marriage certificates can't be forged, etc., etc. So this is a really important piece of change in legislation. I understand sometimes, why they want to change things, and clearly, as is pointed out, it's the legislation that this is governed by is 18th and 19th century legislation, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. And so I would hope that we would support the registration service in what they're putting forward, and would probably try to minimise the changes that they make, especially by widening out the number of people who can actually perform this service, because I think that is, we've got a set of professional individuals who do a professional job and ensure as near as what they can that people can get married in both a good place and it's done legally, and that they're not being forced into this particular situation. So, as I say, important document, and I think we should support what officers are saying here. And the issue about the costs that we will lose, ultimately, yeah, there is a cost to that. I think that's immaterial. It's outweighed by those other things, Chairman.
Thanks, Glyn. Thanks for raising that. And yes, it isn't important in the big picture of life, but we need to know and understand where we are with it. But I'll hand over to Rob to come back to you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Councillor Cotty, and thank you, Councillor Guilfoyle, for the opportunity to come back to the question. And certainly, you're absolutely right. Our registrars make sure that the venues for marriage are suitable and dignified for the gravity of the occasion. And we've got a set of guidance provided by the Registrar General for us to follow to make sure that that is complete. We also, of course, ensure health and safety and of the venue in terms of fire safety. We've had training from the fire service to do that, and we can highlight if there are any issues at all around health and safety. On the question about sham and forced marriages, the training that our officers have mean that we're able to spot and question if there are any issues around couples who are presenting to give notice of marriage. And happily, they are very, very rare these days. So we see one or two a year, if that, and we report them in, and a process can then follow with the police and others. Our feedback that we get from couples is tremendous. I think, as Councillor Guilfoyle is aware, and other members also, I'm sure, we offer standard and enhanced ceremonies. And I'm delighted to report that we have got some tremendously good feedback. I think any members who've been to any of our civil marriages will recognise it, and the quality of our own venues in West Bridgford, in Mansfield, in Worksop, all across the county. We've got some beautiful venues for couples to come to as well.
Thank you, Rob. Councillor Hollis, do you want to come in? Hello. You're still on mute, Tom. Councillor Hollis, is he still connected at all?
Hello, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes. Yep.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I do apologise. Technical issues. Well, no, just to fully agree with again, Councillor Guilfoyle's comments. I think the regulatory part of the service is very important. It was really good to hear Rob's reply to that one. And I think I suppose from experience as well, we've certainly had some bizarre requests at Ashfield District Council with regards to venues that we own that people would like to use, including Sutton Town Centre, which I have to say wouldn't be amongst my list of places to get married, but it's still a lovely place all the same. So I really support the ethos of the Law Commission's review in the fact that it gives people choice. It's very supportive of business and allowing people to really have more choice, which is fantastic. My only concern, I suppose, as a custodian of the county council is, and the direct question to you, Rob, I mean, how bad do you think it's going to affect the council's finances? Obviously, with regards to a lot of our venues and now having some more competition, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but obviously, is it going to have a detrimental effect on the registration services income? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Rob, are you happy to come back on that, please?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Hollis, for your comments and your question. Certainly, I think there's opportunities that come with this, as well as some issues around the income from the service. The figure that's quoted in the report relates to the income that we receive from the licensing of premises. So there is a finite sum that we can identify that will not be available to us. It's a modest sum, as you can see, in the £40,000 per annum. I think one of the things I would stress, and I think gives us cause for encouragement, is that the services we provide, providing literally thousands of marriages every year in a normal year, obviously not so in this COVID year, but they, from the standard and the enhanced ceremonies that we offer, couples are able to select whether they want to pay a very little, modest amount of money or a larger sum. And again, depending on which venue and which day they want the ceremony to take place. So I think there will still be a strong income strand. There's also, of course, a lot of couples do wish to marry outdoors. That's currently not permitted. However, we can be flexible to a degree with those venues who have an outside structure. If it's a permanent gazebo with foundations, and we can satisfy ourselves that it is a permanent structure, then we can license it and have done. So I think all those marriages that we currently do will be enhanced if we're able to do more outdoor venues as well, whether it's a town centre or otherwise. So I think I still see a very bright future because of the quality of the services the County Council provides in marriages.
Thank you very much, Rob. I don't see any other hands at all.
Chairman, I know.
Yes, Councillor Guilfoyle, yes.
Yeah, just to come back, I think we should emphasise actually the service does not it's not a profit-making service. That basically all that is that we break even, and that's all. The service pays for itself as such. So it's not that the county council makes a profit; it pays for the staffing, etc., etc. And I will say, Rob, just on a part, my son got married recently, as you know, and it was brilliantly done. COVID set in, which is difficult, but it was done very tastefully, and it was a splendid day. So again, thank you to the staff for that. And I got married at Worksop 30 odd years ago to my wife, and that was done just in the same way, and I don't regret it.
I wasn't going to ask you that, Clint.
I got my fingers crossed.
Right. Well, thank you for those comments anyway, so thank you, and thank you, Rob. Okay, I can't see anybody else with a hand up or wishing to speak, so We'll now move to the vote with the recommendations on page 21, which Rob mentioned earlier. So can I ask any members voting against the recommendation, please indicate now. I don't see any. Are there any abstentions? All those who've not yet indicated are considered to be voting for the recommendation, so I confirm the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for the debate. Item 6 is the flood risk management section 19 reports, which is in Gary Wood's and Sue Jakes' name. So I don't know who's going to speak first. Is it Sue?
I think so, Chair.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. This report sets out the County Council duties as a lead local flood authority to investigate incidents under Section 19 of the Flood and Water Management Act. This Section 19 report is brought in relation to some one-off flooding that occurred earlier this year on the evening of the 15th of August in Ollerton. And very unfortunately, the town was subject to very heavy localised rainfall that resulted in 5 business premises experiencing internal flooding. Now, the impacts of the flooding will be particularly felt by the small businesses that were affected here, and they will be repairing and rebuilding their livelihoods. So we are currently working with them to look at installing individual property level protection measures, and our sincere thanks go to those members of the community that came out during that storm, and they worked so hard to lessen the magnitude of the devastation with their sweeping brushes and buckets as they got drenched in the storm. So our ask of committee today is to approve the recommendations and the publishing of the report in line with the legislation. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sue. And on page 27 of the pack is the recommendations, which committee approves the publishing of the Section 19 report Appendix A in accordance with Section 19 of the Flood and Water Management Act 2010 and our lead local flood authority responsibilities. 2, the committee endorses the work outlined in the report. 3, committee encourages all agencies involved to seek and implement suitable measures to alleviate flooding as soon as reasonably possible. And 4, that officers provide updates to committee on the relevant agencies' progress with alleviation measures as part of the regular flood risk management updates. And I propose that recommendation. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So open the floor to any questions. Councillor Lawton, thank you.
Thank you. Just want to switch some. I mean, really, mine's just one of a comment, really. In 2008, I was a part of, with Tim Farr, who was then chairman of the Trent Regional Flood and Coastal Committee we went on several occasions down to the offices in Defra to be able to do work on the 2010 Flood and Water Act as part of their consultation. And Section 19 was one of the reasons why, was one of our main planks to ensure that somebody was held not responsible, but somebody actually investigated. And this is a classic example, and I really do appreciate the work that's done on behalf of the department. This is a small, when I say a small flood, this is an isolated flood in Ollerton, and ordinarily it would have just gone and passed us by. And the 2010 Act now formulates and formalises the operation of the County Council to be able to help these people that are impacted by flooding. So well done to Sue and the team for picking this one up and running with it, and thank you very much on behalf of the committee. I'm sure that everybody concurs with that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Lawton. I've got Councillor Guilfoyle next, and then Councillor Greaves, and then I'll come, if there's no other questions, I'll come back to Sue after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure many members have got the email from Mr. Cross regarding the Loudon flooding, which I thought was very interesting in some of the observations that he's made relating to how we, because he's watched us on the video cam, how we sort of address the Section 19 reports, and sort of said we don't do a lot of in-depth questioning around the reports and scrutiny, which I think, you know, when I reflect back, probably I've took an interest in a lot of what's gone off in the workshop and scrutinised that, but perhaps not on some of the other reports. I think the other thing is, within the Yellow Pages, it's clear that one of the difficulties that we have on page 25 of the Yellow Appendix A, item 5, where it states that it should be noted that this duty to investigate does not guarantee that flooding problems will be resolved, and we cannot force others into action. And I think in reality that's one of the problems that we've got, that sometimes we know that, you know, things need to be done, but we have no legitimate control over what those other agencies do. And I think that in some respects is what's missing, that we cannot literally insist that other agencies either come together in one instance, because that can be a problem sometimes, getting people to work together. Not on a lot of them, I will admit, you know, we've been involved, myself and Kevin have been involved locally, and we've sat with the Environment Agency and others to discuss through some of the problems. And then the other issue is the timescales. And I know Bruce, you know, will remind us, as he does, about Southall and the problems there. And it took 3-4 years to get works done. 5 years, you see, yeah. You know, which is a considerable length of time that people still have that worry that it's going to happen tomorrow. And you know, and I can understand some people don't even probably sleep properly because of it, because of the damage that it does to their property, to their houses and everything, and their livelihoods, as has been said. So for me, I think there still needs to be some looking at the people, an agency having appropriate powers to be able to get things done, and also that things are done quicker. The other issue I just want to ask is, obviously Mr. Cross does talk about, you know, how do we go on, and I just wondered what sort of tracking system we've got, Sue, to actually track, because we have had a number of these reports over the last year in itself, and I can't remember, but nearly on every agenda we've had a flooding report. On some occasions we've had 2, 3, 4, if not half a dozen on one occasion. And I just wondered how we track those, and how we as members can hopefully track what's going off, and how we can then support you to put more pressure on those other agencies to get some of the works done.
Thanks, Glyn. You've hit the nail on the head. It is an issue of joining everything up, but I'm going to let Sue come back to that, because we do work well with some of the agencies. So, Councillor Greaves, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, much of what I was going to say, Glyn's covered very well. I mean, there's not such a thing as a small flood, actually. When it's devastating your house or your business, there isn't such a thing as a small flood, because actually, I mean, it's far beyond that, because insurances, you may not get the insurance no more to be able to, for your property or for your business. But yeah, I mean, we seem to be a bit toothless, even though we're a lead local flood authority. We haven't got no teeth, and that's what I think is lacking with this. Because I mean, we have got the authority, or ask other authorities to come to the table, but we've got no teeth in making them. And some come and some won't, as Sue well knows in our neck of woods at Worksop. But we never hear of what has been done after these reports. It's never brought back to committee to say what has been implemented on these reports. And I wondered if really it would be a good idea to have a follow-up of these reports to see what has been done, and or what's going to be done in future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kevin. I think what you could do, one thing we can do as members, and Councillor Lawton's done this as well as I have. I've gone to Ken Clark when he was in our MP in Rushcliffe. I've also gone to Ruth Edwards, and Ruth Edwards has taken that on. So I think it does need a legislative change, but that's from a political point of view. I'm going to ask Sue if she'll come back in and just come to some of the points that you raised. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Chair. I concur with Councillor Lawton's view. Section 19s are a really valuable tool, but they are a bit of a tick box for a piece of legislation. The actual work in working with the committees working with the communities comes after that Section 19. It very much establishes who's the lead in terms of the incident. And where it's ourselves, that's sometimes much easier to pursue than when it's a much bigger event, or maybe something that other people are leading on. With regard to Mr. Cross's document, some interesting points in there. There is a lot of work being done nationally for some unification of Section 19 reports. And what I can tell you is nationally, the picture is that most Section 19 reports take a year to 18 months to 2 years to be produced, and that's a lot around resource issues. And at Notts, we certainly took a decision through this committee was that we would try and turn them around as quickly as we could to get on them with the job in hand to assist those communities. With regards to what happens after Section 19, apologies if the members are feeling that that's not being communicated. We do try to bring those updates back every 6 months via Communities in Place in the update report. But I'd certainly say if you would like any updates on issues that are in your area that you feel that we're not talking to you enough or regularly on, then we're very happy to do that. And with that kind of picks up the tracking system. So after these committees, the Section 19 report is published on our web pages. So it's publicly available there. And that is the stepping stone for us then working with the community, working with the partners. We do have several mechanisms for working with those partners. And I'd say it's probably as good as it can be. The Environment Agency have obviously come and spoken to this committee on a number of occasions. We meet with them every couple of months, as we do with Severn Trent and the districts. And we very much try to work in partnership with those organisations to help move these forward.
Thank you, Sue. Councillor Lawton, you wanted to come in, and then Gary Wood. Do you want to let Gary come in first?
Yeah, let Gary come in. Yeah.
Back afterwards. Yeah. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Councillor Cotty. It was just a quick thing, really. You'll notice on the forward plan there's a wider update plan for February, so we can bring together an update on all the projects for members to consider.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Yes, Councillor Lawton.
Yeah, I mean, really, just a comment, really, from my experience with flooding. One of the big problems and the beauty of Section 19, it does find out who is responsible, and therefore it then gives us a direction to people to be able to lobby. The big problem comes when you do end up with a large flood like in Worksop, where a number of organisations should be contributing towards the cost of that scheme. And then, unfortunately, it drops into the Environment Agency's cost-benefit analysis. And that is a nightmare, because then you end up with modelling and all those ancillary works that are required out to be able to get the right costing and make sure that it is value for money. So it's about that basket of funds which takes the time to be able to get and slows down the whole process. But I do have to thank this administration and also the previous administration as well. You know, you nearly broke into a smile there, Kevin. Because they, you know, we have stuck our money where our mouth is, and we have continued to put £500,000. Whilst not a great amount of money, it is a considerable amount as far as many other areas are concerned, and put that into capital projects as far as flooding is concerned. It allows us to be able to lever in quite a large amount of match funding to be able to get some of these schemes over the line. And I do have to pay tribute to the IDB and for the work that they've done. And also, we do need to remember that the Environment Agency should be given an extra £2 billion over the next 5 years to deal with flooding issues across the country, and we need to make sure that we tap into that funding stream. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bruce, for those comments. I've also had a very short email yesterday from Councillor Pringle, and I think, Sue, you can take back to the team our thanks for everything that the flood team do and how we work with you as members. But Councillor Pringle just wanted me to say that the report for Ollerton is completely correct, but more importantly, on Councillor Pringle's behalf and the businesses that were affected, he would like to thank Ross Marshall for all the work he's done in keeping the businesses and himself updated. So I said I would say that short sentence for him. So if you pass that on to Ross, we'd be appreciative. I don't have any other speakers, so we'll now move to the vote for the recommendations on page 27. So can members voting against the recommendation please show? Any abstentions? Okay, we take it that all is in favour of the motion recommendations. Thank you very much, unanimous. I've just been informed, surprisingly, that the whole system is going to go down at 12:05, and it could be 15 minutes to half an hour before it comes back up. It's on an automatic upgrade, which we can do nothing about at County Hall to change. So while I'm not trying to shorten debate, we can come back afterwards, but I think most people will be having other things later in the day. So if we can keep it to the point, I'll be very appreciative. We'll move to item 7, which is the Nottingham Highway Design Guide. So I think it's Gary, it's Sally Gill and Jan Whitco. So thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Chair. I will introduce the paper, and then if members have questions, myself, Jan and Martin will be available to answer questions. The purpose of this report is to advise members of the new Nottinghamshire Highway Design Guide and to seek your endorsement of the guide and a recommendation that if you do endorse it, it will be recommended to Policy Committee that they approve it as council policy. For many years, the County Council has used the 6 Cs Highway Design Guide, and that has been a very useful document. As members will be aware, the 6 Cs partnership and the 6 Cs Design Guide is no longer in operation. So we, in consultation with yourselves, we decided that we would produce our own Nottinghamshire Design Guide. And there has been a lot of work over the last couple of years, including consultation with the districts, with developers, the whole construction industry, and that has resulted the document that is before you today. The main aims are to ensure that we work with developers and designers of new developments, whether it's housing or employment or whatever, to ensure that it's designed properly so it's safe for all users, whether you're a pedestrian or whether you're a vehicle driver, and to ensure that new developments don't impact on the overall working of the highway, so the network can keep moving safely across Nottinghamshire. We've also taken the opportunity to include reference to work that the authority is doing around SUDS, so that's now in the Highways Design Guide. So that's an issue that we want developers to look at an early stage. So the recommendation to you is that you endorse this document and recommend it to Policy Committee for approval as council policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sally. The recommendation is 1, endorse the Nottinghamshire Highway Design Guide and recommend to Policy Committee to be adopted as County Council policy, and 2, request that Policy Committee delegate authority to the Corporate Director for Place in consultation with the Chair of Communities and Place to make minor changes to the Highway Design Guide when required. So that's my proposal.
I second that, Chairman.
Thank you very much, John. Before we go into it, I have been informed that the Labour group have asked for a briefing session on it, and I think that's correct, which we're happy to do, and that offer is open to any other political group. So if the Ashfield Independents wish to have a briefing, or even anybody else, then we're happy to do that. So if it's anything technical, that might be an option for you to do at a different time, but I'm happy to take questions. Nobody. Oh, Councillor Butler.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really, there will be a question at the end of it, but I just want to say that this is a really interesting document, and I hope I'm not sounding too anarchy here. But it's really important that we have a clear guide for, as Sally says, for developers and others, because let's face it, whether we like it or not, around the county, there's a lot of development happening now and a lot more to come in terms of house building. And we all know, those of us, whether we sit on district, borough planning committees or not, we know the amount of concern that residents and others have about potential developments. And how many times have we heard at borough planning committees highway comments that we may or may not agree with? So to have a concise document that is, it's even clear to laymen like me and like us, has got to be welcome. And also to get the original document down from 300 pages to 190 pages now. I mean, I know it's still a big read at 90 pages, but it's certainly that should reduce the chances for anyone saying, oh, we didn't know we had to do this, or we didn't know we had to do that because it was buried away in the document. So I can see a lot of work's gone into this to bring the document size down. But the question I have, though, is how confident can we be that that this really will be followed still by the developers in their applications, and indeed by the local planning authorities? And also, given the pressures of the fact that there will be a lot of planning applications coming in, are we sure that we are still able, or are we confident that we are able to ensure that all applications, especially the major ones, do follow the new design guides from this new guidance? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. I'm going to go to Councillor Creamer and then ask if there's any other questions after that. Okay, carry on.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Butler's actually asked part of it, but on the same sort of lines, how easy will it be to actually for councillors? Will there be some sort of, I mean, I'm assuming we'll be able to get it online at any time, but will there be a sort of simplified document hinting at where to go to for councillors? As has already been said, due to the actual amount of building in our areas, I'm reasonably lucky in our area because it's very, very built up, but many councillors have to not suffer, but have a lot of building in their area. So I just wondered how easy it would be for us to get hold of the document in full. Is it online? And is there a, hate to say it as councillors, an idiot guide, a guide, a simplified guide that we can actually refer to? And thanks for getting it down from 900 pages as well.
Thank you. Okay, Sally.
As Councillor Cotty said in his introduction, the offer to brief all members groups on the design guide is there. So whether you want an overview or a more detailed session or a bit of both, the team would be very happy to do that. The document will be online, so if anyone wishes to read it at their leisure, it will be available for anyone to access it at any time. And of course, the team is available to talk to members about developments that are happening in their patch. And as members are aware, we've over the last couple of years we've looked long and hard at our resources in this area, because there's a lot of development proposals happening across Nottinghamshire, and we want to ensure that we've got the right quantity of staff to be able to respond to that. And as most members are probably aware, in each of the districts we do have a lead officer, and I'm sure most of you have quite a good relationship with the individual. I'll ask Jan to comment further in terms of the actual day-to-day stuff in terms of the technical, how we encourage people to use it and to follow those standards to ensure that when we do get development proposals and we're consulted on them, that we don't throw up our hands in horror and we can work with a developer. But if you've got any further comments, Jan.
Thanks, Sally. Thanks, Jan. You want to come in?
I seem to have lost him.
He was there a minute ago. I saw his hand was up.
Hello there. Thank you very much for the questions, Councillor Butler and Councillor Creamer. Just echoing what Sally's just said, I've recently taken over as a team manager, as some of you may or may not be aware, and one of my main priorities as the new team manager is to ensure that all my senior officers spend a lot of time with members, dealing with applications and keeping them informed as to applications in their patch. I historically worked in Rushcliffe, and as Councillor Butler knows, I do endeavour to try and keep all my members informed as and when, and it's something I expect my colleagues in my team to continue to do. In terms of Councillor Butler's question about how we can be sure it will be followed, the guide is a guide. You know, I can't stress that much more, but there's two ways effectively. Firstly, if it becomes policy, it is a policy we can refer to when objecting to planning applications. As some of you may well know, when planning inspectors review planning appeals and the like, if we haven't got an up-to-date document which has been adopted as a formal policy, then it's not given very much weight. The previous document was dated 2009, so it was 11 years old, and a lot of the reference in there were out of date, which, to be honest, was becoming a bit of a charter for consultants and the like to pull it apart and nitpick and use it against us. So I'm hoping that the new guide, being up to date and being in accordance with modern standards, will enable us to do it, to defend appeals, certainly through in that respect. The second way, of course, is that the guide forms the basis as to what we use for technical assessments for Section 38 agreements, which we use to adopt the roads. So any roads we're looking to take on ourselves as a county council, this guide will be the basis against which all applications are judged and assessed. And if it doesn't comply with the guide, then we won't be granting technical approval on the design of new roads. It's as simple as that. Consequently, we won't take them on. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Jan. Yep, I think so. Yep, right. Okay, doesn't seem to be any other speakers. So will the recommendations we've already had. So we'll move to the vote then, please. Can any members voting against the recommendation please indicate? Any abstentions? I confirm that that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Sally and Jan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we now move to item 8, which is the Local Improvement Scheme Capital Fund, and I think Mark Walker is with us. Thank you, Mark, if you're around.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you, Chair. So members will recall that a report was brought to the November committee meeting regarding the 2020-21 Liz Capital Fund Awards. That report recommended 70 applications should be approved by committee for a total of circa 432,000. The committee approved those recommendations. The November report also highlighted that a number of applications were still being assessed. That assessment process has now been completed. Today's report identifies a further 27 applications totaling just under 252,000 that are recommended today for approval. The details of these applications are set out in Appendix 1 to the report. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hopewell. Oh yeah, but I proposed it, hadn't I? Yes, I'm sorry. Page 132, the recommendations that number one, members approve in principle the capital funding for the projects as stated in Appendix 1 to this report for all 27 organisations. Item 2, the approved projects are subject to terms and conditions of the Local Improvement Scheme Agreement, which has been drafted in consultation with legal services. Number 3, organisations awarded capital funding 2020-21 have until December the 31st, 2021 to complete their project, and that this is reflected in the funding agreement. And number 4, the council offers proportionate practical support and or signposting to organisations that have not been successful with their applications. I propose that recommendation.
I second that, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Hopewell, then Councillor Guilfoyle, please.
Hello, thank you very much, Chairman. I'd like to congratulate Mark and his team for the hard work they've done on this report, and also Councillor Hanley, because I know you do work very hard with the applications that come through, and for that, once again, thank you very much and congratulations on the hard work you've done. My one criticism of this report is that the refusal or the refused items appear by the ward or the district. The accepted ones do not. So some of the accepted items, are actually very, very remote. They don't go into detail of exactly where they are in the county. And for that, I'd like to ask if you could, in the next report, bring that forward to include that. And on a different issue, I'm not looking through the refused items. I've noticed the uptake has been very, very sparse in the Mansfield area. And for that, I think we need to promote that as councillors to make sure people are aware of this scheme. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Guilfoyle, please.
Thank you. Chairman, I'd like to say thanks to the staff. I know it's always difficult when we're dealing with schemes such as this, and it's also can be contentious. For me, Chairman, just looking at the issue as it is at the moment, clearly what I've sort of been questioning is what is the fund designed for? And when you look at the applications, and if you look on the information on page 129 of 158, where at number 5, where it goes into the aims is to encourage and support local communities to be strong, vibrant and resilient, and encourage volunteering and to seek wider funding opportunities. And I actually think that we're actually missing on that point in some respects. A lot of the areas that haven't got that social capacity within them have missed out on opportunities here. Under the previous administration, when we were in, we took into account volunteering time that was put in, because we knew that many of those organisations in some of those areas could not get that financial capacity because it's not there within the district. If it was there within the district, the facility they were looking to either enhance or to deal with would have already been there. So I think that there needs to be a review again about how this, what it's designed for and what we expect it to be doing. I mean, clearly, we've given money to private members clubs, and when it's talking about encouraging and support the local to be strong environment, that when you've got private members clubs and whatever, they're already very resilient, very they've got it there. And the other issue is, if you look at where the money in particular has gone to, and I'm sure Tom will be jumping in on this one. On this occasion, 77% of the funding has gone to the administration's areas. 22% of the funding has gone to Labour areas, and 1% has gone to the Liberal and the Mansfield Independent areas. If you look at the total overall over the last two November and December, 70% in total of the fund has gone to the administration's areas, 23% has gone to Labour areas and 7% to the Mansfield and Independents. And, you know, I mean, at this particular point in time in the year, it does look as though, you know, whether people like it or not, that, you know, a bit of gerrymandering there. And so I in one sense, for me, I think that there is definitely a need for this to be reviewed. It does need to look at how we can work with those people that are struggling, and the charitable sector, which is suffering so much more now through this environment, the COVID environment, is suffering a lot more. We need to look at how we can assist them even more. So, although we're not going to vote against the proposals and the budget that's in there, we do say it's time that this had a review, because it seems to be geared in reality to giving or allocating money to those that have rather than those that don't.
Thank you, Glenn. I'm going to go take the speakers, then I'm going to go back to John Handley, and then I'll go to Mark at the end, if that's okay. Councillor Hollis, and then it's Councillor Wheeler I've got. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not to ruin the theme of my contributions during this meeting, I fully agree with Councillor Guilfoyle. Third time in a row. I think people will start to talk, Glenn. But I think in seriousness, Mr. Chairman, and I could use stronger language than I'm going to use, but I'd only ask for you to, you know, step out and have a look how you'd perceive it to look as a member of the public when at the last meeting 70 local improvement capital schemes were awarded, which totaled a cost of £432,054. And now this morning you're asking us to approve another 27 schemes totaling £251,913, of which £194,713 is going to conservative areas. So only £56,000 going outside of that. And I think the perception of it doesn't look great. I mean, I'd certainly like to understand the robust procedures that are involved, but ultimately I have to go back to the Autistic Children's Centre at the Riley Foundation in Selston, or the Scouts in Skegby, or the kids who use the popular centres at Huthwaite and Stanton Hill, all of which were unsuccessful. And then they have to understand why a private members tennis club or cricket clubs are receiving funding, not necessarily at their expense, but certainly funding that, you know, as Glyn, I think, articulated extremely well, was actually more designed for those places. You know, and as a tennis player and as a cricket player, I'm not going to say that some clubs don't need things, but, you know, ultimately places like Ashfield and Mansfield and other poorer parts of the county seemingly not getting the money compared to conservative areas, Mr. Chairman. And I think it's more of a perception issue which falls on your shoulders, and that's as really as, I think, as calm a manner as I think I can really describe my frustration with that. And as I articulated at the last committee, I wasn't happy. And I'm not happy now. And despite the Labour group saying they're not going to vote against, I'll be voting against this. More of a line in the sand that I would like greater scrutiny of how this money's issued, but also, I think, as Glyn said, a review of how we could do things better in the future, even if that only leads to the council's perception being better. But I think as a more, so that's one point. But I think a second question. Why are we being asked to approve the 27 bids now, and why weren't they announced in the November meeting? I was a bit confused by that, and I think if you could answer that question, Mr. Chairman, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hollis. I think the answer is in the report, but I'm sure that Mark will bring that up at the end for you to clarify that. So Gordon, I'm just going to leave you, because I've got Councillor Creamer who's on the committee and Councillor Lawton, and I'll bring you in before I go to John Handley, if that's okay, Gordon. Thank you.
Don't forget me, Chairman. I haven't got a hand.
Oh, right. Thank you, John. I can't see you. Can't see your hand, but thank you.
Well, my picture's up anyway.
Okay, so Councillor Creamer then, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for putting in those that weren't actually successful. And it does say in the document you'll try and assist. But I've got to admit, I'm a little bit disappointed on some of the things that's lost out on. And only one in my patch, but the Bassett Law Disability Association. I mean, at this moment in time with COVID, and I think we need to support some of these associations. Also, we've got the Gedling District, which is sort of my patch. There's not enough additional funding for a small amount. Now, being as people aren't actually being able to actually do sport at any age, and there is a mental issues, mental health issues, etc. It's disappointing that some of these have actually been rejected. And one, which I have to say, I'm not sure it was exactly in your patch where it was applied for, Rushcliffe, Nottingham Clubs for Young People. We have traditionally given to that for various things because it operates in Netherfield, it operates in Rushcliffe. Just because it's actually in the city doesn't mean it doesn't fill all the criteria. And the rejection is because it's based in the city. Well, that's, to me, is not it's not a good enough explanation. It needs to be explained because I was on that committee. I know you were on it at some time. I don't know if you still are. But it operated in the county quite well. So that's a bit disappointing. And I'm just having to look at Stonebridge Farm, which is, again, in the city. And in the past, we have given bits of money to that, certainly local councillors, etc., etc. But it's about 1.5 miles from where I am. So in Carlton West, many, many people go to Stonebridge Farm, and it is only a small amount. I used to take my children there. It's one of the few inner city farms. And as I said earlier at a meeting, Carlton West is an extremely urban, built-up area. So it's extremely useful for that. But just the project is based in the city again, it's not good enough. Now, if it said there are no there are no visitors from the county or no proof, fine. So on that one, yes, and I think, as has been said by Councillor Guilfoyle, we actually do need to actually revisit exactly what this is aimed to do, and especially at this time where you have no control over it as far as COVID is concerned. But perhaps we should have actually looked at some of the projects immediately after lockdown 1, expecting lockdown 2, that we could actually help the community a little bit more, because some of the projects, some of the sporting ones, won't actually come into fruition again, especially if there's a lockdown 3. So yes, thanks for the report. Thanks for breaking it down a little bit more. But I do actually think, as Councillor Guilfoyle has said, that it does actually need to review its aims, its targets, and under these exceptional circumstances, perhaps it should have been done regardless. So thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the report. Disappointed, as I said, we're not going to actually vote against it, but at the same time, it's somewhat disappointing, particularly those who are rejected. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Creamer. I've got 6 speakers for the rest of this, and we've got around about 16, 18 minutes left. So if we want to come back, we can come back, but I would like to try and get it all finished if we can. So Councillor Ogle. Have we lost him? Okay, Councillor Butler. I'll go back to Councillor Ogle if he's back with us. But Councillor Butler, please.
Right. Oh, yes. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, of course, we need to remember that the local improvement scheme is one of those nice things to do, where it's not something we have to do, and it's something that's been around for many years now. The previous administration to the previous administration had its own version of it, and it's inevitable that however much money is in the budget, and it's considerably lower now than it was a few years ago, it's always going to be oversubscribed. And that's the nature of this type of thing, and it's no big surprise there. But with regards to the perception issue as to where the funding has gone to, well, I speak as a member from a Conservative area who's had one of my schemes refused. We're looking at the Yellow Pages, and it was a scheme I was particularly very happy to support and keen to support it, but it's been refused. And I looked down the list of districts on in Appendix 2, and we got Broxtowe has had them refused, Rushcliffe, Newark and Sherwood, Broxtowe refused, Newark and Sherwood, Rushcliffe, and so on and so forth. And you can read for yourself. And I know that a few years ago, when I used to have quite a say in the local improvement scheme in those days, it was never done on a party political basis, and it's not done on a party political basis now. It's done on the current eligibility and the funding. And of course, one of the big changes in recent months and years has been the fact that there is now a requirement for applicants to show and have matched funding in place. And I think that's the right thing to do. I remember at the time when that policy came in, it caused quite a lot of comments from people who weren't happy with that. But that's helped to help the way that the decisions are made with regards to where the funding goes. So on the perception side, the perception that only or primarily Tory areas are getting this, that will be the perception if you go around telling everyone that's the case. But and if people listen to you and they will, and if you keep banging out the drum, I'm sure that comment does get out, and people do hear that. But the reality is, look at the section, the Appendix 2, and there are plenty of Conservative areas that have had a lot of applications refused. And again, at the end of the day, the decisions for applications can only be made on where the actual applications come from. So simple as that, really. But no, I'm absolutely confident this is absolutely not done on a party political basis. I'm absolutely sure of that.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. I would please ask, there's 2 more items after this that we need to go to. We can come back, but we don't know when. And I'm going to run the committee back afterwards after the update on the system. So we'll let you know a time if we go into that. But I need to get these papers sorted and through. So please keep it short. Councillor Ogle. Then Councillor Lawton. If Councillor Ogle's not with us.
Yes, I've managed to get on. I've been to the Blue Fuzz and I've come back again.
Thank you. Can you keep it short, as long as get your point over? Thank you, John.
Yes, it was very useful to have this project's not recommended for funding, because I could see that I can see who's of mine have put in an application. And there's some there that I've encouraged to put in the application, and in fact there's a lot being rejected for one reason or another, and I should be looking into that. But I think I'm part of the administration. I think I am, and I've had more than most rejected, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawton, please.
John, move on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wheeler. I'm sorry to bring you in later on, but I had to go through committee members.
But if Councillor Wheeler's speaking, then I'll speak.
Go on then.
I'm ignoring that, Chairman. Thank you very much for letting me come back. I'm very happy to have waited and to fully understand the process. Having been involved with this job before Councillor Handy took this on, and he's done a great job. I understand the process. I can tell you hand on heart that absolutely no bias whatsoever. The officers do a fabulous job in selecting on merit those schemes that you go through. And I would encourage those councillors here today who are having a moan, perhaps to spend a bit of time with the applicants to understand their schemes better. I do. I fully understand what they're asking for, why they're asking for it, and we go through it together. And there's always the opportunity to speak to the members of the team with any questions, and they are more than happy to answer these. So I'm delighted with what's in front of us. I can't vote, I know I can't, but I'd like to thank Councillor Handy, the rest of the team, and the LIS team in what they do. Great job. Well done, guys.
Thank you. Councillor Handley.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try and respond very quickly to some of the points. Councillor Hopewell, yeah, I take your point on, and we'll make sure that if there is another scheme, that would happen. Councillor Guilfoyle, totally agree with what you're saying. We did review the criteria last time. It's a different criteria, but it's certainly, in the time I've been involved now, I see areas which need to be tightened up, because there are some areas where we're missing the point about what LIS was about, and it's important to work with local groups. I hear Councillor Hollis's perception is a problem, but it depends on how you're looking at it. And the question, why are you being asked to approve the things today is because after the November meeting, there were still some areas where we needed to check about match funding, and we did that to give those areas the opportunity to, show that they'd secured the match funding. Hence the request for today. The problem, of course, is we had requests for £2 million or thereabouts, and there were always going to be some people disappointed. We had to operate with the criteria that we were using, that the applications were based on. And I understand what Councillor Creamer says, hindsight is a wonderful thing. And maybe when we set this off, if we'd have known the situation we were in now, we may have looked at trying to change the criteria. But halfway through the process, I think it was difficult to do that. So there are things we've learnt from this, but I can say, hand on heart, that when I looked at the first amount of information, there was no information in there on who the what area it was and what council was supporting it. So there was certainly no bias. It's just the main criteria of match funding significantly was missed by so many groups. Okay, I think I've answered most of the questions, Chairman, but the last thing I need to say is thank Mark and his team for all the hard work they did in, preparing the bids for us to approve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Handley, for those responses. I don't know if Mark's got anything to add, but if you do, Mark, I would appreciate a short reply, if possible.
Yep, okay, thank you for all the thanks you've offered. The team do work really, really hard to make the best cases possible. Councillor Hopewell, we can provide that ward and district information for you. We have that. I can send that to you after this meeting.
He usually is very short, though, isn't he?
And then just to add that actually, Councillor Hollis, in the November committee meeting paper, paragraph 27, we did flag up there were still applications that were being assessed. These are those applications. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. I wasn't trying to cut you off, but I did want to try and get the papers through if it was possible. Okay, we'll move to the vote then, please. Are there any members voting against? I'm expecting Councillor Hollis.
Yeah, I'll be voting against, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any abstentions? I can't see any. Okay. And I presume then all others are voting for the recommendations. So thank you very much. The motion is carried, and we move now to responses to petition presented to the Chairman of the County Council. Can I ask Gary Wood, please, to present the report? Thank you, Gary. And I'm sorry, my screen was off. I pressed the wrong one. Thank you.
I'm going to be really short, Councillor Cotty, as you indicated. I think I'm just going to read out paragraph 1. So the purpose of the report is to recommend to committee the responses to the issues raised at County Council at the 15th of October meeting. Back to you, Councillor Cotty.
Thank you. I'm going to formally move the recommendations on page 149 of the agenda pack, but there is an issue with item A in the report. So these are the recommendations. I'm going to ask Noel if he'll put them up because there's a change to it. Recommendation 1 is the proposed actions B to L be approved and the lead petitioners be informed accordingly. Item 2 that consideration for action A be deferred to the January 2021 meeting of the committee, and the outcome, number 3, the outcome of committee's consideration be reported to full council. This alteration is required because the commentary at action A is not accurate as it stands, and that the new evidence has come to light which needs further consideration. So I'll give you an example. We did have the wrong school name to start with, but there are a couple of other things. So under the request of the local member, I've decided to pull that from the pack and hope that's okay with members. So I propose that recommendation. I have a seconder, please.
Yeah, I second that, Jim.
Okay, are there any questions or comments?
Move the vote, Chairman.
Okay. Anybody object? Any abstentions? Yeah. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. And now we move to the work programme. Any comments or questions on the work programme, please? No, I can't see any. Thank you very much, everybody. We've made it in time, so I do appreciate that from you all. And I wish you all a Merry Christmas. And I'm sure I'll see some of you, I think it's about the 17th of December for another meeting, full council. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Chairman, as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I thought you'd have got a plug in for Inspire there.